Hello. The project for today is we're going to make a salary calculator. So basically you put in what you make a week, and then it'll multiply it by 52, and then it'll give you the output. And we're going to do this in Windows Builder. So let's go ahead and get started. New Java project. Salary calc. Create. I'm going to right click source, new, other. I'm going to choose application window. Under Windows Builder and Swing Designer. From a previous video, you'll see that. I'm going to name this sorry. Okay, so I'm going to jump right over to the design side. So we take a look here. The first thing I always do is give the absolute, because right now it's gridded. So I'm going to click absolute, click the window. Now I'm going to put in a couple of titles. So I'm going to grab a J label, put it up here, make it a little bigger. And to change the text, just click in the text tab. We're going to put in, my spelling is horrible, later. And horizontal alignment, I'm going to change this to center. Let's take a peek. That's close enough. All right, I'm going to grab another J label. I'm going to expand it out. We're going to center this as well. And why don't we put in this one? Enter your weekly salary. Make this a little larger. That looks pretty centered. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is just an example. Then I'm going to put in a J text field. So this is where the user will enter in their salary. Make this a little larger. And we're actually going to label this one under variable weekly salary. You'll see why in a little bit. And this one can be left blank, nothing inside of it. And now before I make the button, I'm actually going to make the label for the answer, because if I make the button first and I add an action to it, it'll actually not recognize the label when I reference it. So I'm going to add the label first. Buttons always last, which is kind of my go-to. And this one actually doesn't need any text inside. And we'll label this one answer. Oops. Okay, so we have our title, our input box, our answer variable. Now we're going to add the button for the event. So I'm just going to put in, that should be good right about there. Make it a little bit larger. I'm going to label this one, or the text inside, calculate. And this one I don't really need to change the variable, because it's going to be making the action. We're not going to be really referencing it. It's just an action. So to make an action for this button, we're going to want to right click this, add event handler, action, action performed. So it puts us an event. And this is where the code will go when the button is pressed. So let's go ahead and put in some logic here. The first thing I want to do is grab that number from the weekly salary. In Java, it's kind of strange. We have to change it from an integer to a text field back to an integer. So you'll see how that works here in a second. All right, let's go ahead and build that one. First, I'm going to need a variable, an integer. It's going to equal it to 0. I'm going to grab the text file. So R1 equals, and this is where we're going to take the text field to an integer. We're going to do the weekly salary. Get text. Looks right. Now we're going to do the math. So do var1 equals var1. We're going to times it by 52 weeks in a year. So we'll get the gross annual salary. And now we got to push var1 back to the answer text. So to do that, you got to do a set text. And we go integer to string. In the variable of var1. All right, so let's run this. So when we made the graphics, it makes all this code here. We pulled in the weekly salary text in that white text box. It gets put to var1. var1 gets times by 52. Then var1 gets set to the answers label that we made at the bottom. So let's go ahead and run this. Okay, so here's our graphic calculator. We'll enter a weekly salary in of 1200. Let's calculate this. And you can see it calculates how much you'd make in a year. Let's put in if you made $5 a week, you'd make $260 a year. So there you have it, annual salary calculator.